Yo, what's good, everyone? The Fusion Mod ban list just dropped yesterday or Thursday or whenever it was. For me, it was yesterday, but I don't know when this video is getting uploaded. So it just dropped. And I'm going to drop you guys another tier list. My last tier list was met with mixed responses. I have learned a lot about what you guys like. But also, I was wrong on a couple things. I'll cop it. I was wrong because the master was indeed here. But we're back at it again with another tier list. This kind of goes with everything I've learned so far in this format. What's good, what's not good, what works, why it works. So I do think this will be decently accurate, but mind you, this is my thoughts after one day. Well, not even one day of the ban list being out. So I haven't had a chance to get much testing, but I know people are keen to see kind of a tier list of what people think they dropped. I've done decently well playing Fusion World and Masters, so I think I've got as good of a shot as anyone at making this tier list. Sorry, you're going to see OBS for like half a second right now, kind of look at itself, but we'll move on to the tier list. Alrighty, we're going to start off. I'm going to rearrange this so I'm doing it in an order I like. You know, I got blue so abysmally wrong last time. We'll start off with blue. I'm going to go into yellow. Why am I doing it in this order? Couldn't tell you. We're out here vibing. And we're going to go in green, and then we're going to handle what I think red's spot in the meta is last. So, yeah, move them across. Alrighty, starting with blue. Now, I'm going to start with Goku Black first. I think Goku Black's in a solid spot. Now, Goku Black was the blue deck that was obviously the worst, and that was because how much red dominated. And I think if we're in a similar spot, Goku Black will drop down. Like, if red ever becomes good again, Goku Black just can't keep its like Zamasters and stuff alive to get its effect. But I do think Zamasu, look, it's going to sit between these two tiers. This tier list is going to be optimistic. I'm not gonna kind of shit on any decks. It's going to be very, very optimistic tier list. Kind of the potential for each deck, and I will make sure I tell you guys all the negatives of the decks that I can think of. But optimistic tier list, Goku Black is in B tier. Moving on to the other three blue decks. Now, these three blue decks are essentially the same deck to me. So let's talk about it like they are the same deck. Actually, Trunks and Vegeta are the same deck, slightly different. So, start with Trunks and B tier. Trunks is the best at removing board. I think Trunks has a bunch of cool things. However, I do think the format is going to change towards yellow and green. Trunks' ability of bouncing a 3 or less is not very good against green. It's terrible. Against red, it's very good. Against yellow, it's okay. Depends how wide they go. With their kind of new build that it kind of goes 3-drop Vegeta into 4-drop Goku into 5-drop Frieza into 6-drop Frieza, like that kind of thing, the ability's not going to matter too much. Obviously, bouncing the Vegeta back to hands, decently good, but you're probably going to still be running sickles and stuff like that. But I do think it has the versatility. It can run the package with the 4-drop Vegeta that on swing plays a 2-drop Trunks from the bottom of your deck. So you can go 2-drop Trunks, swing, end of turn, end of attack, I think it bottom decks itself, or maybe it's end of turn. And then the next turn you play the Vegeta, swing, it looks for the Trunks, plays the Trunks, swings for the Trunks, then you can usually lead it pop back to hand if you need. So it's got some cool play lines. It definitely doesn't need to be as defensive as it was in the top coup format. So I think we do have potential there. Moving on to Vegeta. Vegeta is also going to be B tier. Now, the reason Vegeta is B tier is because it can apply pressure. It can actually end the game against green. It can end the game against yellow. It can end the game against other blue decks. Maybe Vegeta goes up to this A tier. That leader effect is super strong at ending the game. But we're going to leave it here. We're going to leave it. You know what? No, this is the optimistic. It goes to name. Optimistic tier list. I do think Vegeta is the best of the three blue decks I've talked about so far, just because it has the most pressure to end games. And I think blue kind of has the answers to Goku Black. So maybe, I think Goku Black unfortunately the more I talk about it, I think Goku Black has to go into C tier. I think too many decks kind of have the answer to a lot of Goku Black's shenanigans, and playing Goku Black for 5, essentially because you have to play a body and then play the Goku Black, because most people will be able to, a lot more removal in set 2, so a lot of decks will be able to remove the Masters before you can play the Goku Black. And you also kind of go -2 in hand, because the one drops the Master that looks top 5 is going to miss a lot of the time. So let's move Goku Black down there. I think Vegeta's in a good spot. I think Vegeta has enough pressure to end games. Pilaf Loop didn't get hit. So Vegeta's one of the decks is definitely able to abuse it. And I think it's going to have a great time with all these new cards that blue has. Zamasu is going to be great in this format because it's red's the only color, red and blue are the only colors that can kind of clear it. So I think we're going to do good. And then we're going to talk about Zamasu. Zamasu was a deck I said was D tier back in last format. I didn't see it. The more I look at it, the more I can kind of see it now. Zamasu is definitely going to be a grindy deck that looks to take a long time to end games. I'm going to leave it in B tier. I definitely think Blue's awkward in terms of removal this format because it has to run both stuff like Zeno, which I ran before, but needs Zeno and Absolute Lightning or whatever the card is against green, but it also needs Sickle against yellow and red. And also blue mirror matches as well because you want to get rid of the 4 drops of Master, stuff like that. So I do think it's awkward, but I also think when green's entire turn is playing a cell, it's going to be very hard for green to actually kind of get through Zamasu's 3 life because you play the cell, you swing at it, and then next turn the cell gets bottom decked, and then you go, oh no. Broly's definitely, obviously Broly's a little bit better, but still only 2 swings plus leader swing. So I definitely think Zamasu is able to sit there. The green decks that can go wider are Droids, because it plays like a lot of the 20Ks, but they are 20Ks, so Zamasu's not really caring about those 20Ks. So I do think Zamasu is kind of in one of these spots. No, we're going to put in a name. No, as I said, optimistic draft. Optimistic tier list. Now we're going to yellow. Cooler still isn't it. So Cooler's going D tier. Ginyu, I'm liking more because it has a lot of go wide pressure. But I think blue having Zeno, blue obviously running 4 Sickles at the moment. Zamasu being a 25k leader. Broly's going to come back into it and probably play because there's more big bodies, and yellow having the ability to play a bit more control. I think Ginyu's going to have to sit into the C tier. Now we go into the 2 good yellow decks, which is Frieza and Vegeta. Frieza, I think Frieza's going to be a scary deck, and I do think that either Frieza or Vegeta is going to be A tier, and I think the other one's going to be B tier. I honestly can't tell you which one. Frieza is counterintuitive with the 3-drop Vegeta, which is why I'm going to sit in B tier and put this Vegeta in A tier. I just think it's very hard for that 3-drop. Like, you get a very good green matchup just because of that 3-drop Vegeta, I think, because Red's not as good anymore. You kind of have a lot of options. The 4-drop Goku's good. The 6-drop Frieza's great. But honestly, may struggle a little bit into Blue's kind of removal with Sickle. Frieza, though, into blue does have the option to go wide, which I do like. You know what? I'm going to quickly check on my phone. If this Frieza says up to 2, you can like just set your Bulma and like Ginyu and that kind of stuff is active. Leave everything else in rest that green wants to remove. We're just going to give me 2 secs to read this Frieza. Make sure, I'm pretty sure it says up to, but I'm just going to double check. Choose up to. You know what? No. Frieza's going in A. Vegeta's going in B. I think at this point, Vegeta doesn't have enough cards to activate battle on opponent's turn to be an S. It'll eventually go in S one day, but be in A or B. So for now, Vegeta's going to be in B. However, the activate battles are really good at protecting green from swinging into the Vegetas. I do think, like Frieza, you'll be able to restand Koi, I think it is C-U-I, Bulma and stuff like that to still get value from its leader effect while leaving the important cards in rest mode. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. As you can see already, like I haven't developed an S tier deck, and it's kind of wide with your A tier options. Now for green. Droids is going to be my first A tier deck. Droids, to me, is the deck that best develops bodies as green. And these bodies are going to be 20Ks. So they can swing into like an aggressive Frieza's board, or an aggressive Vegeta's board, or aggressive Ginyu's board, which is good. So that's the 4-drop 17-18 that ramps, the 2-drop 18 that draws on swing, as well as the 2-drop Krillin, that's a top 5 searcher, and potentially even 2-drop Trunks if it wants to go down that route. Because Droids is like using its leader effect to charge a bunch, like every turn, not the lead effect, sorry, the field card effect every turn, it's going to have enough energy to kind of do these things, especially because it doesn't need to play a 5-drop ramp card. I think that's the biggest thing. It can develop a bit of a board on that turn that most green decks have to play a 5-drop ramp card to really get to their 8 energy ramp. So for that reason, I think Droids is going to be very good into the green mirror matchups. I think it's going to be best into yellow's clearing board. But once again, optimistic tier list. I love Gohan, but Gohan probably has to sit in B tier. However, I could definitely see it popping up to A tier. To be fair, I could see all the green in A tier. The biggest thing for me about Gohan is I don't see it effectively clearing yellow's board post Vegeta. You play Vegeta on 3, and then it's very hard from that point to clear it. So if like yellow already has a wide board, they play Vegeta, and then you can't really interact with their board at that point on, it could be quite hard. I think Gohan definitely needs to run the 2-drop 25k swinging Trunks, because you need to apply pressure into yellow's board before they awaken and start freezing your board with Goku. And I think the 2-drop Trunks is the main way you're able to do that. But I think Gohan's potential is always S tier, because it's the activate battle. If your Goku can stick and it has the most consistent ramp in the game, like double ramp, I guess, because it can run the 3-drop Goku, the 3-drop destructive. So like that first ramp you get, it's the most consistent at hitting it. But we'll set it for B tier now. Broly is arguably the worst green deck for mirror matches, because you have to lose a life to awaken, and as a lot of the top Broly players learnt last format, it was actually best to not awaken in green mirrors. So for that reason, I can't put an A tier, because I think there's going to be a lot of green decks. However, Broly is naturally going to have a good yellow matchup, and I definitely think that is very important in this format. It's also going to have a decent blue matchup, because critting a life into blue is not super aggressive. And being that 25k leader is always nice. It means that Trunks can't swing into it. Both of these leaders can swing into it, so it definitely drops Broly down. Red can swing into it if it plays the 17. So like 25k, as I've said before, is kind of a fake number this format. I think it's less fake for Zamasu, because it has better, has unconditional removal with the sickle. Nothing's protected from that. Whereas I think a lot of cards Broly wants to remove has protection, such as 17 and Vegeta. So going to be very good against yellow, but yellow kind of has those tools now with playing slow with Vegeta, and then using Goku to stun all battle cards and Frieza to stun battle cards, and then the 6-drop to play everything and rest. It's going to be quite hard for Broly to do much. The good thing about Gohan is it does have that 3-drop Goku, which ramps as removal for your opponent's Vegeta. If you ever get to a spot where you have enough energy, you can do something like play Goku, put it into their energy, and then use some other form of removal, like 5-drop Gohan. If you get to the spot where you're on 10 energy, you can then 7-drop Gohan, clear their board, stuff like that. So it does have the potential. Moving on to Cell. Cell probably sits in... Once again, it's kind of hard between these two. I think these two tiers definitely blend together a lot. I am not a Cell believer, and the reason I'm not a Cell believer is your curve is super awkward. You don't really get to play body until your 4th turn, 4th attacking turn. So 5th turn in total if you go first, 4th turn in total, I think it is if you go 2nd. And the reason is you kind of want destructive strength on 3, and then you want to sell games on 4. If you sell games on 4 going first, so that's your sell games on 4, then the turn after, you're just going to get Zeno to lose cell games. So you only get 2 turns of that effect. And especially in a slow format, people are going to leave Cell unawakened, so it doesn't actually get that first value of the leader ramp. Which is kind of scary to think about, not getting that first ramp. Obviously, it kind of gets better when you're selling, go cell into cell into cell. But you have to draw those cells. Cells are unsearchable, as well as stuff like Zamasu kind of just bottom decking the field. Well, all these blue decks are going to play Zeno to bottom deck the field, so you can't actually sell into cell. So if you play cell and then they bottom deck the field, you've kind of got to turn off that you can't do anything. Sorry, it's the turn after. So if they do this, you'll go back to 7, go back to 8. You'll kind of have to Broly, because if you sell, you can't then back it up. So there's definitely a bunch of things. I just can't. For me, Droids has the most potential. I guess this, as I said, optimistic draft. Droids could be the worst of these. But I think the potential is there for Droids. And now we're going to Red. Red obviously just got murdered. It sucks in comparison to the other colors, is what most people are thinking. However, I still think it has a decent shot left in it. So we're going to start off with Top Coup. Top Coup, I definitely think drops the most. I think it's in C tier. I think it's better than Cooler. But I think it's somewhat on par with Ginyu and with Goku Black. And that's because these decks are kind of fragile. And that's kind of what Top Coup does. Like, all these decks, they have free aggression, like Ginyu retaps, untap stuff. Goku Black cheats stuff out, and Top Coup also cheats stuff out. But they're all a bit fragile, and I think Top Coup, like, realistically still has the highest ceiling of all these decks. If it gets awakened, you can play your Kefla. Like, if you draw your Kefla, you can play like a 17 or something, swing, do whatever you need to do with that board state, and then on the following turn, you can play a 3-drop, swing, glimpse, get your Kefla back, and kind of do it again the turn after. So I still think Top Coup's a really good deck because of how cheap it just gets bodies out, and glimpse means you still have 5 copies of Kefla. But can't play against blue because that one Kefla gets bottom decked, you're in a really bad spot. So for me, C tier. And now we've got the other 3. I also think Starter Coup kind of sits in that this C tier. It wants to awaken to protect its bodies. It doesn't have as much upside as Zoroku or Beerus. Starter Coup had the value over Top Coup, which was you can play more of the TOP packets. It doesn't have to just be U7s, but with Kefla being limited to 1, that TOP package is a lot weaker. So for that, I do think these two are better. We're going to go Zoroku. I think this kind of sits in B tier. The reason I say this is because it has 8 1-drops that are 20k swingers or better, which I think is massive. You kind of look at Yellow. One of Yellow's best plays in set 1 was going Raccoon into Ginyu, which was 2 20k attackers for 1 energy total. But sometimes you'll just Raccoon into something else because 2 20k bodies for 3 energy is still super valuable. So Zoroku being able to go like Tien plus Frieza, that's 120k, 125k body for 2 energies. If you're playing into something like Green, sometimes they can't answer that wide board. It also gets a lot of value from playing Android 17 because Green can't clear it. Yellow will struggle to clear it outside of Death Ball, but it has to be in rest mode, so they have to rest it and then clear it, and it's super awkward kind of for them to do that. And getting a 25k leader into Yellow 30k like as well, that just gets a lot of value. So I definitely think Zoroku has a lot of potential. It's also really good at clearing like Yellow's early board. It's good at clearing Goku Black's early board, just because that's kind of what Red does. So I do think that sits in B. And honestly, Beerus I don't think changes much. I think Beerus is still an A tier deck. Obviously, the format's changed, but I still think Beerus has a good shot into all of these decks that kind of sit into A tier. It has the best removal of every Red deck, which I think is massive. I still think people like forget how good of a card 3-drop Goku is. It clears a 20k on play, which is any card your opponent played the turn before. But because it's Beerus, it's now a 30k, which is like every card's 4 energy play. And I'm getting a 25k body out of it. Like, this is still a lot of value. I do think the biggest thing is like Green playing a big body. Most of the time Red couldn't really deal with that, but before Red could go wide enough to deal with it, now it can't. But Beerus can still neg it and then hit into it or kill it with a God Kamehameha, or if it has another neg on board, kill it with a Goku, kind of stuff like that. So for that reason, I still think Beerus kind of sits in the A tier. And this is, as I said, it's an optimistic tier board. If I am playing, I'm trying to figure out these decks. I'm trying to figure out Gohan. I'm trying to figure out Vegeta and probably Zoroku. We kind of already know what the potential of this is and what the potential of these are. So for me, trying to figure out these. And I don't think there's an S tier deck. And I think that's great. I think we're going to have a very wide format where you could see a lot of decks. Obviously, this is a first tier list. We don't know. We don't know how well this is going to do, but I'm going to definitely grind the sim and see how these decks go. My first priority are probably the red and green decks because I like playing red and green. So I'm going to be grinding Droids, Gohan, and Beerus and see how they go. Maybe even some Zoroku. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.